Hello and welcome back to the Ride Right Waxing and UK One Wheel channel. So tonight, what am I getting into? We have got a set of flight fins to fit to my XR. I've been really looking forward to this. I've been riding a one wheel now for just over 2 months from the beginning of my channel. If you go all the way back, I started off with a pint. I've come across to an XR. I just love trail riding. And my buddy Tom, T-Collier86, if you want to follow him on Instagram, has got a set of flight fins, and I must admit, he looks like he's handling the trails a lot better than I am, and obviously it's locking your feet in. You can hop over tree stumps, up over big rocks, etc. And that's, I think, what I am missing. So this is my next step in my one-wheel adventure, is to get used to these things and ride these things. And I managed to get these second-hand, so a little bit of a saving, so yeah, which I'm really chuffed about. I've got some spacer plates coming from Pink Oak, and I must say Nick Pink Oak is a massive shout out to him. His customer service skills are second to none. A bit like ride&glide, the UK guys for the one wheel products, I really will say, are stepping it up. They look after the customer database. They make some fantastic products, and hats off to them, because it's a hard industry to get started off in, and I wish them all the best of luck. So again, flight fins, I'm going to be going through it, but first off, what I'm going to be doing tonight is cleaning my XR. I've been riding some trails today up at my local forest. This thing is dusty, grubby, dirty, the grip tape's hanging. I tend to put gaffer tape on the side just because I'm a little bit fussy, and I do like things nice, a bit like my car. So I put that down just to try and obviously alleviate any big gouges and scratches to my rails. So when I clean it all up, it looks lovely for riding tarmac and going out to the shops, and a little bit like that. So it just looks nice underfoot, and obviously showcases a one-wheel product as best as possible. And obviously, like I say, some of the ones I see online, they always look so mint, and mine looks battered. So what I'm going to be doing tonight, I've got some tyre dressing to finish off, but more importantly, I've got some interior cleaner, which is just like an auto clean interior cleaner product. Squirt that around, especially on the grip tape. And if you go back to one of my previous videos on the pint, when I fit the float plate on the bottom, it's a great little technique. You spray this on and you detail the grip tape by agitating it. You use the microfiber cloth to soak up the moisture, and that way then the thing comes up absolutely lovely. So I'm going to detail this first before getting into fitting the flight fins. I'm going to pop you on time lapse. I'm going on a lot, apologies. So yeah, let's get this thing looking lovely. Let's get to it. Okay, with the Onewheel Xr now all lovely and clean, that gaffer tape that I do put down the sides really does protect those rails, considering what a beating they get from the trail riding that I do. But we're going to be removing this white mudguard and getting on to our flight fins. So these here are the flight fin spacers that I've got from Pink Oak. They've got a very hard rubber casing there that will actually mount up against the flight fin fender itself, and then we get the flight fin sitting on top. They kindly supply some awesome stickers. I'm going to go pride and place on my board, and stainless steel hardware. So we've got serrated nuts there. So yeah, some really good high quality, high grade fitting of obviously the bolts to put it all together with. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop this camera back on the stand, and we're going to get this lot fixed into here. I'll kind of talk through some of it. I'll speed some bits up, slow some bits down, but basically, yeah, just take you through how these fit. I've never fitted these before, as I haven't fitted anything to my one wheel that I've recorded. So I try and take you along on the journey to see how it's done firsthand, and mistakes and all, and tips that I pick up on the way. So yeah, let's get into this. Okay guys, so first ever attempt of fitting flight fins to my Onewheel Xr. I've laid out all the hardware. I've got the original screws just to my right that came with the flight fins themselves. Now these screws are obviously going to be too short because we've got the spacer plates from obviously Pink Oak, and Pink Oak have supplied stainless steel Allen key head. I think this is a, looking at the Allen key itself, this is a CRV4 fixing with shake-proof nuts. And what I'm going to be doing is the bolts that came with the original flight fins have got shake-proof washers. So I'm going to put those with the nuts, making sure though we've got clearance at the actual back of the nut when fitting to this doesn't obviously catch the tyre. So never fitted these before. Did take me a little bit of time, just to work out which way these go, because these holes, as you can see, are all offset in different angles, because obviously the way that the foam, or should we say the rubber flight fin pad is made, obviously the holes are all in different places. So we just got to make sure that we get that the right way around. So I've got that set up so I can see daylight through all the holes. That is obviously one, that is the other. This is going to be a bit of a work in progress. Again, never fitted these before, so I thought I'd do it from a layman's eye, should we say, to say how easy they are to fit. So I've got an Allen key here, which obviously come with the original screws for the fender. So I'm going to pop you on time lapse. I'm going to get this off, give it a bit of a detail just quickly, and then we'll get into these flight fins. So let's get into this. Okay, mudguard off, detailed all the area that obviously we need to be getting to. So these are the flight fin mudguards. So on the flight fin mudguard you have a stepped area, very much like the mudguard, which is the same as this area just here. And that's the area that's going to sit obviously on this drop part of the rail, and the shallower part will sit on top of the grip tape. So by the looks of things, we've got to remove the two screws here in the front foot pad, and so if that one was going on there, we've got to remove the back two screws, also in the mudguard themselves. So I'm wondering, the gentleman supplied these screws here. I might just have to have a quick look in my surplus of screws, because we're going to need a slightly longer screw, obviously for this one here. Now it might be that it's perfectly fine, and the same with this front one. So yeah, so that's how the mudguards go. But I think first off, what we need to be doing is bolting these flight fins, I would say, to the actual mudguard itself. Now, depending if you ride goofy or regular, I can only but imagine. Obviously I ride regular, I think they call it, so I would face the camera stood on the board like so. So my feet would slot in this way, and these are angled so your foot would slot in from this, obviously the raised, or should we say the higher part, to the shallower part, because that's where your toes would go, is obviously under the shallower part. So that is obviously where they're going to mount. And now looking at these, they've obviously been mounted before, and I don't think they go either way, which they do. So these have got some already marks on here where the flight fins have been fitted, so we might always use those marks, and that's how it's going to mount. Obviously if you ride goofy, then you would mount them this side. So if you're standing facing with your back to the camera, then obviously your foot would slide under here. And again, these mudguards make no difference front or back, but like I say, I'm going to put them to the same way that my feet ride, so we've got a nice clean area to work to. So as you can see just here, this one is obviously now going to be automatically dictate to be the back foot, because I've got a raised part facing me, and this one is going to fit on there like so, and that one's going to fit on there like so. So I think what I'll do, I'll mount these, then we'll try some test fit with my feet and see how tight they feel, and go from there. So yeah, I think already it makes the board look quite considerably different. So let's get these back onto time lapse. Let's get these bolted on here loosely. Let's have a look at the hardware that's been supplied, these longer bolts, and see how easy that is. If I come across any problems, then I'll come back to the video and explain where I am. So I'm going to mount that to that one, and that to that one. Okay, just very quickly before we jump to time lapse, I've got obviously 3 different lengths of bolts here. The longest, obviously I would have thought it's going to be for the deepest hole, and then we've got this one here, which is slightly shorter, which I would have thought is going to be for this hole. And then we've got these two here. This one's been reamed out to be the same length as this one. So we've got the two shallower bolts, or should we say the smaller in length bolts for the bottom. So they're the ones that are going to go into there. This long one's going to go into there. So there is different length bolts, obviously, for the holes, which I know is pretty common sense, but I thought I'd just point that out, making sure that we don't try and get carried away, bolting one long one in, and then finding out it's obviously hitting the tyre is obviously what we want to try and avoid. And then what I'm going to do quickly is when they go through the actual mudguard, I'm going to put a shake-proof washer on the back, and then follow that up with the obviously serrated nut that's going to bolt to it, holding it all in place. So yeah, let's get to time lapses. Okay, even though those bolts are all those different lengths, we should be finishing up, I would have thought, from a uniform length, as you can see, like so. But all those bolts stick out pretty much the same length at the back. Obviously they're not fully tightened up, we've got some gapping here which we need to push in, but I actually found the rubber holes to be quite tight, so I put the Allen key in and then I push the bolts through, and then you can actually push the bolts through the rubber, making sure they stick out. You don't want them sticking out obviously too much, because obviously you don't want it catching on the tyre of the Onewheel. So we're going to put you back on time lapse. I'm going to mount these up to the fenders, but using the original marks that they previously left, which was quite handy. Obviously if you've got a brand new shiny pair, it doesn't matter which side you fit them on, but I'm just doing it for aesthetics really more so. Shake-proof washer, shake-proof nut. Obviously please do tell me if I only need one or none at all. And I've got the little Loctite there, as well as, which I will just put on a little bit on all four, just because I don't want them coming undone. And also I'll be putting them on here on the threaded bolts to go back in, hold the mudguard on, to give a little bit of purchase in those aluminium threads, so I don't need to over tighten them and strip them, fingers crossed, so I hope. So yeah, back to time lapse. Let's get these bolted to the fenders. Okay, so we've bolted both of those on. The time lapse just shows me doing one. Obviously use the Loctite on the back. I was going to use the washers, and I might still be able to when I readjust, because obviously you've got a lot of adjustment up and down depending on the size of your feet and also what size of shoes you wear. So when mounting these obviously onto the board, like so, obviously depending on the size of your foot and depending on how thick your shoes and your sole are, you can adjust these flight fins up and down. What I have used, I've used a 10mm ratchet spanner just to catch it. The longest bolt was a bit of a tricky one, because obviously it came through, but it was just obviously a couple of mil shorter than the rest of the three. So what I've done is I've got a nut on the other three, and that pulled in just enough to catch the thread on the top one. And then obviously we've done the longest bolt up last, but we've done it so the actual bolts themselves come through and fit extremely flush with the actual top of the nut, so giving optimum clearance. We have plenty of clearance here for the wheel and the tyre, which is ideal. And obviously what it does do is means I can just simply get in there, loosen those up, and we can adjust the height of the actual flight fin once mounted to the board. So both are done. Got to make sure we fit these on the right way. Again, I'm regular, so that would go like, let me just work this out. No, that's a top one. Oh, quick, getting all confused here. So that's, I ride regular, so my feet would come in from this angle, and that's how it would stand, so that's how it would fix. But if you were riding goofy, then you can mount them that way around. So if you're facing with your back to the camera, you can actually ride that way around. So I'm going to pop it back on time lapse, and yeah, we'll get these screws taken out. We'll have a look at the depth. Again, if there's anything that I think you might come across as a bit of a struggle, then obviously I'll go back to video like I am now. But we'll get back on the time lapse and get these all set up and fitted to the Onewheel Xr. So let's get back to it. Okay, so what I found removing these screws at the back, they're extremely short in length, and obviously these 4 screws came out of the mudguard originally and located into the aluminium threads just here, which obviously came out of this section of the mudguard. But these ones here are obviously a little bit shorter, that hold obviously the rear Kush Hi pad on the back. So we're going to be disposing of those, and we're going to be using the longer screws that came with the kit. Now, obviously through bits and bobs that I've bought, I kind of keep all my old bolts and stickers, and so I'm hoping in here, in this bag here, I may have some newer ones because they are obviously quite worn. And again, trying to keep my board as nice as possible. As long as we find the same bolts of the same length, then obviously what we can do is put new, fresher bolts in the hole. So I'm going to put you back on time lapse, and we'll get this one then fixed onto here, because this is obviously for the regular stance, and we'll get these screwed in to the aluminium threads. What I will also be doing is using my Loctite. This is Loctite 243. It's only blue Loctite, but what it does do, it means you don't have to over tighten into the aluminium threads and have that risk of stripping them. And if you notice on all the bolts that you do tend to get from, say, Kush or Onewheel, you've got yellow Loctite on there as a matter of course, and it just means that you've got that little bit of extra security of them coming loose. So pop me back on time lapse and we'll get into this. Okay, so that is now all fixed on there. Obviously screws already, the original mudguard screws have gone into the front 2, and the back 2 you'll obviously get supplied pretty much the same length screw. The left hand side on this back Kush Hi pad, the rubber was raised and is actually quite thick, and I had a little bit of trouble fitting these screws in originally. If you go back to one of my previous videos, which I'll put in the description below, on how to fit the Kush Hi to an XR. So actually what I did, I always try and keep the spare screws that I've got that come with the kits that you don't use, or bits that I've previously bought. And there was one literally 2 mil slightly longer, so I've actually used that screw in the left hand side of the pad here, which just basically got it to catch, because I try not to use power tools. I try and use it so when I've got the leverage on the actual Allen key, we use the upright before it gets really tight, and that way then we're not overloading the aluminium threads in the housing. So that is now all on. Really happy with that. So I'll go back to time lapse, we'll get the front mudguard on and have a look at the finished product, and then I'll talk to you about my mudguard. Interesting little bit of kit that is. What I will quickly do just on time lapse, I'm just going to clean this grip tape here, and as to the earlier part of the video, you'll see, sorry about that, the phone went flat. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to quickly detail this bit of grip tape as I demonstrated earlier on in the video. This is where the mudguard had covered it up. So we're going to agitate that with a dry brush with some interior cleaner, and then a microfiber just simply rests it on top, takes all the moisture away, and does a great job cleaning the grip tape. So I'm going to go back to time lapse, I'm going to detail this, I'm going to fit the front flight fin, and then we'll talk about the mudguard. So let's get back to it. Okay guys, what do you reckon? How cool does that look? I absolutely love the look of these flight fins, I really do. And with the extensions on there, I really think it just gives it a real beefy look. So I am super excited about getting out on the trails and ripping this up and seeing what it feels like underfoot. I've got a bit of adjustment to do on these. I'm going to get my trainers on, I'm going to put them under the flight fins and just adjust them up and down. It's a 10mm ratchet spanner, obviously a flexible head, and that way then I can just undo, tighten up, and obviously slide these things up and down. Plenty of clearance on the back of these bolts, obviously, so we're not fouling on the tyre, but I think you'll agree it looks awesome with these on. I'm so pleased, so pleased. Difficulty out of 10, I'd give it a 4 out of 10. Like I say, quite straightforward. It is handy having some spare screws around, just because if you've got different pads and stuff, you can obviously just run into trying to get that in. And I would recommend, if you can, not to use power tools. Try and use the Allen key in the upright position, and that way then you're not going to over tighten. But yeah, over the mudguard does do a good job, does keep the dirt down massively. And that's where I've come onto this one. Unfortunately, these are second-hand flight fins, and I did not get a mudguard or a fender for them, and I do need to get one. So I've basically taken a template of my buddy Tom's one. I bought myself a 97p bucket from B&Q. In America, that'd be known as a Harbour Freight, and simply just cut it out to give myself an idea of how this would work. And I think you'll agree, as a very quick prototype, and this is a prototype, this is not one I will be using, it works quite well. So all I've got to do is find myself a 3mm polycarbonate, or find out what plastic basically they make these fenders out of. And if anybody does know, please do leave a comment below. And obviously if you're in the UK, the best and the cheapest place to buy it. So I'm going to get some, I'm going to cut some out because they do take a battering. I'd like to get some different colours. And then if anybody wants one and it's relatively cheap, I can make one and send it to you. It's not an issue. So that's my next little project. But yeah, so thank you massively though to Pink Oak for selling me these extensions for the flight fins. I think it will make the whole ride that bit better for me, because I do like a slightly wider stance. And again, the guy up there is absolutely awesome. His customer service skills. I am so chuffed I've got these, and I cannot wait to try them out. So until my next video, thank you so much indeed for watching. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. But for me, my Onewheel Xr and my new flight fin setup, I'll see you soon.